Before I introduce the World Trade Organization, I want you to think about something simple: the products you use today. When you woke up, did you go on your phone, get dressed for the day, or have breakfast? Your phone might be designed in one country, built in another, and use materials from several different parts of the world. The clothes you're wearing, the food you eat, and even the apps you use. Many of them depend on global trade. But with so many countries involved, trade can become more complicated. There can be disagreements, unfair advantages, or barriers like tariffs that make goods more expensive. So this raises an important question: who makes the rules for global trade? Well, that's where the World Trade Organization comes in. Now that I've got you thinking, we are going to talk about the World Trade Organization, also known as the WTO. In this presentation, I will be covering WTO member states, its historical development, key objectives, Canada's involvement, advantages and disadvantages, and finally, whether it promotes economic progress. The World Trade Organization currently has 166 member states, representing about 98% of global trade. This shows that almost every country participates, making the WTO a key part of the global economy. However, even though there are many members, global trade is dominated by few major economies. Countries like the United States, China, and the European Union control a large share, while many smaller countries each contribute less than 1%. To become a member, countries must apply and go through detailed negotiations to ensure they follow WTO rules and standards. Overall, the WTO's large membership highlights its importance in connecting countries through global trade. Now I will talk more about the historical development and how it came to be. The WTO developed over several decades, starting with the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, in 1947. This was created after World War II to reduce trade barriers. Over time, countries participated in negotiation rounds, with the most important being the Uruguay round from 1986 to 1994. This expanded trade rules to include services and intellectual property. As a result, the WTO was officially established in 1995, replacing GATT with a stronger system and a formal dispute process. Today, the WTO continues to evolve and manage global trade. The WTO has several key objectives that guide global trade. First, it promotes free and fair trade by reducing barriers like tariffs. For example, a new trade deal between the European Union and countries like Brazil and Argentina is starting to remove tariffs on thousands of products. This means goods like beef and fruit will be traded more cheaply between regions, increasing trade. Second, it supports economic growth and development by improving living standards and encouraging innovation. For example, global demand for AI technology, like computer chips and servers, has boosted international trade and economic growth in 2025, especially in North America and Asia. This has helped industries expand and create more economic activity worldwide. It also works to balance the interests of different countries and stakeholders, including developed and developing nations. For example, Canada recently pushed back against U.S. pressure in trade negotiations, saying that trade agreements must be fair to all countries, not just controlled by one. This shows how global trade systems try to balance power between stronger and weaker economies. Finally, it allows countries to protect public interests like health and safety while still participating in trade. For example, countries are still allowed to impose tariffs or restrictions to protect key industries like steel or respond to unfair trade practices. In 2026, the UK and EU discussed new rules and tariffs to protect their industries from cheaper imports, showing how governments can protect their economies while still trading. Overall, These goals help create a stable and fair global trading system. Now we're going to talk about Canada's involvement. Canada has played an important role in the WTO since it was created in 1995, and even before that through GATT. One of Canada's main contributions is helping design the WTO's dispute settlement system, and it remains one of the most active users of it. Canada also works with other countries to improve the WTO through groups like the Ottawa Group. This involvement is important because Canada relies heavily on international trade, and the WTO provides stability and access to global markets. Now, here are some of the advantages of the WTO. The WTO provides many benefits for different stakeholders. For governments, it creates stable rules for trade. For businesses, it opens global markets and encourages competition and innovation. For consumers, it benefits them from lower prices and more choices. Developing countries also gain better access to international trade. So overall, the WTO promotes economic growth, fair trade, and helps resolve disputes between countries. Now for the disadvantages of the WTO. Despite all its benefits, the WTO also has its drawbacks. Wealthier countries often benefit more than developing nations. Local industries may struggle to compete with global companies, which can lead to job losses. Governments may also have limited flexibility in making domestic policies. Smaller countries can find it harder to participate in negotiations or enforce their trade rights. So while the WTO helps organize trade, not everyone benefits equally. So does the WTO promote economic progress? Well, based on my research, the WTO does promote economic progress overall. It encourages trade, innovation, and economic growth by reducing barriers and creating a rule-based system. While there are disadvantages, such as inequality and competition challenges, the overall benefits outweigh the drawbacks. Countries can also adapt their policies to reduce negative impacts. So overall, the WTO plays an important role in supporting global economic development. Thank you for listening to my presentation on the World Trade Organization.